I remember the first story I ever read that I wasn't made to read by my teacher or my parents. It was a Spider-Man comic book. Unfortunately, I don't have that comic anymore. I wish I did. However, from that initial exposure to today, I have been infatuated with the idea of superheroes. And it's pretty easy to see why. Superior athletic prowess, good looks, above average intellect with a dash of bravery, guile, and humor. The superhero is a uniquely American mythos conceived under the idea of what a morally upright person with powers would behave like. But as I discussed in episode 1, morals of a society change with time, and as a result, heroes that we know and love are being rewritten under a new moral standard. So join me in this episode of Office of the Patriot, where I discuss the left's obsession with erasing the mythology of the American superhero and replacing it with superhero characters that forego truth, justice, and the American way for woke ideology. Hello, and welcome to the Office of the Patriot. In this office, I try to make sense out of the nonsense of the progressive left and rhino right. If you are a subscriber, thank you for your continued viewership. It is appreciated. If you are a returning viewer, please take a moment to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any future presentations. And if you are a first-time visitor to my channel, well, congratulations on finding it. It's usually hidden by the YouTube algorithm. However, I hope you find the content worth coming back for. My name is Myron Ybarra, and I'm your host. As a preteen in the mid-70s all the way through the mid-80s, when I was officially considered an adult, albeit an immature one, I was a comic book superhero aficionado. In fact, many of the comics I collected in my late teens, I have today. They are all bagged, backed, and boxed, and rarely removed from their resting place. The comics displayed on my thumbnail are a small sampling of some of my favorites. I do pull one or two to read from time to time because that's what they're for, after all. Marvel Comics has developed my favorite genre of superhero comics, although there are a few DC comic book characters that I follow. Prior to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, also known as the MCU, movie studios like Warner Brothers Pictures, 20th Century Fox, and Sony put out superhero movies like the X-Men, Spider-Man, and Daredevil. However, most of these movies were not made with the goal of tying multiple characters and multiple comic book storylines together. That didn't happen until Marvel Comics created the MCU in 2007 and the introduction of Iron Man in 2008. I believe Phase 1 of what would later be known as the Infinity War saga are some of the best superhero movies Marvel ever created. But from there, it went downhill. Not fast at first, it was a slow introduction, much like feeding a 6-month-old solid foods for the first time. You gotta give them time to adjust to their new reality. The first Iron Man, featuring Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, stayed true to the comic book character, using his own words. Tony was a
genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
And the playboy aspect of that character was not removed from the early offerings of the MCU. In fact, it was what made the character so entertaining. A Housewives of Beverly Hills, only as a male in a red and gold suit of armor. Next, you have Steve Rogers, who started off as a scrawny but patriotic, honorable United States Army recruit who was administered a super soldier serum that transformed him into Captain America. In the MCU movie Captain America First Avenger, you see scrawny Steve Rogers being placed into a Vita Ray capsule, and after a few short minutes, out comes shirtless, ripped Captain America, where Agent Peggy Carter couldn't resist the temptation of touching Captain America's chest.
You look taller.
Didn't hear an outcry of male exploitation from that scene. In Thor, you have actor Chris Hemsworth walking around shirtless while Jane Foster ogles him. And then later in the movie, Thor kisses Jane's hand, causing her to giggle with delight at being treated like a lady, even after she casted her lecherous gaze on him.
You know, for a crazy homeless person, he's pretty cut. Hey, sorry I tased you.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
What is this?
Oh. My ex. I'm sorry, but I can't take you.
And this is where we say goodbye.
Thank you.
Jane Foster, Eric Selvig, Darcy, farewell.
And this objectification and chivalry isn't just relegated to male superheroes. The Black Widow, also known as Natasha Romanoff, played by Scarlett Johansson, introduces the Black Widow character by being tied to a chair, wearing torn stockings, and a dress a 20-something would go clubbing in, all the while enduring a beating at the hands of some low-level male weapon smugglers.
Не так я ожидал провести этот вечер.
Я знаю, что вы ждали. Так лучше, поверьте.
На кого ты работаешь? На Лерментова, да? Он все еще думает, что мы должны через него толкнуть наш товар?
Comic book characters that we know and love, portrayed by skilled actors with their initial or their essence intact. But as we moved to Phase 2, I started seeing a shift in the behavior and mindset of these beloved characters. In Iron Man 3, Tony Stark suffers a psychological meltdown that requires his MCU girlfriend, Pepper Potts, to come to his rescue with the power that she was forced to take by a man. In Thor Dark World, Thor was only able to defeat Malekith the Dark Elf by using technology developed by Jane Foster. And in Captain America Winter Soldier, Steve Rogers' second love interest in the MCU, Sharon Carter, is assigned to protect Captain America by Nick Fury of S.H.I.E.L.D., as if Captain America needed protection. Are you beginning to see the pattern here? These are minor introductions of feminism into comic book storylines, but as we move to Phase 3 and Phase 4 of the MCU Infinity War saga, the woke ideology is put on full display. You have Captain Marvel, also known as Rick Jones. Oh, sorry about that. That would be Carol Danvers in the MCU, because wokeness started when the MCU changed Captain Marvel from a male character to a female character using a modified version of the comic book storyline. For what it's worth, there is a Miss Marvel character, but she has nothing to do with the MCU storyline that's being introduced. Then, because having a female lead character was enough, Carol Danvers is in a same-sex relationship with character Maria Rambeau, an Air Force pilot. But that still isn't enough to prove that Captain Marvel or Carol Danvers doesn't need men anymore. Shortly after getting to Earth, she bullies a guy, but I guess it's okay when a female bullies a male. So this guy approaches her with small talk and she offers to shake his hand. When she takes his hand, she uses her powers to bring him to his knees and tells him if he wants to keep his hand, he needs to turn over his jacket and his motorcycle.
Yeah, I'm not going to help you. Least you could do is give me a smile.
How about a handshake? I'm Veers.
People call me the Don.
Wow. Here's a proposition for you. You're gonna give me your jacket, your helmet, and your motorcycle, and in return, I'm gonna let you keep your hand.
Take it.
What, no smile?
So now we can add assault and strong-arm robbery to Captain Marvel's list of accomplishments. And when we get to Endgame, we have an entire scene where it appears every single male superhero was down for the count, and only female superheroes were able to run the ball to the end zone, or rather the Infinity Gauntlet, to the time machine.
Peter Parker.
Hey, Peter Parker. You got something for me?
I don't know how you're gonna get through all of that.
Don't worry.
She's got help.
And even after the Endgame saga, subsequent MCU movies like The Eternals, Hawkeye, and The Marvels have adopted woke ideology in the form of LGBTQ plus characters, same-sex marriages, and anti-male superhero storylines. Heck, some of the characters have disabilities which do nothing to differentiate or improve the character or the storyline at all. If any of you are interested in finding out what these characters were prior to the MCU rewrite, I've included links to Marvel character background pages in the description below. Now, I'm not against the evolution of the superhero genre. I mean, the 1950s Superman storylines are a pretty far cry from the 1980s versions, but in all of these characters, there is a continuity of behaviors, beliefs, and ethics. By rewriting established characters to fit this new woke morality, we diminish the original storylines, these characters, and the authors who developed them. If the left is hell-bent on promoting their woke ideology through comic book superheroes, then I suggest they come up with their own and let the market decide which characters it wants to watch and read about. For me, I want my comic book characters represented as they were written so many years ago, as a genius playboy, billionaire philanthropist, a kid who understands that with great power comes great responsibility, or an American-loving alien fighting for truth, justice, and the American way. This concludes today's presentation of Office of the Patriot. If you enjoyed the content, please take the time to like, subscribe, and share my channel on your social media. It is appreciated. And as always, have a blessed day and stay safe out there.